Welcome back, my fellow patriots, to the Save Our Republic daily video series. Today is the third installment of our trilogy regarding the states. Today we're going to be talking about the importance of states to good governance. Yesterday was about the importance of preserving the social compact, and the day before that it was related to the importance of freedom. But today I'm just going to talk about the brass tacks, making good policy for local levels. And this is actually pretty simple, which I think is intuitive, and I think that most everybody forgets. If you live in your local community and have an issue, let's say with the roads or your schools or with your local health department, not only do you have the ability to talk to the people directly that affect that or go to city council meetings, etc., like I talked about yesterday, but those people that you interact with know the circumstances on the ground. You can imagine that if you live in the Bronx, the circumstances there might be very different than if you live in Harlem. And imagine if you're in Alaska, in a township that has maybe a few hundred people, or you live in Texas, in Dallas, with millions, or if you live in Florida, in one of the rural areas, or if you live in Kansas, or you live in, and not in a metropolitan area, but in a suburb, or you live in Maine. I can go on and on. The reality is that the circumstances are very different wherever you happen to live. And therefore, the people there are best in tune with what the issues are, what the practical realities are. And when they develop solutions, they can draw upon the experiences from across the country, apply those experiences and potential various policy solutions to their local circumstances, and hopefully come up with a solution that makes the most sense. If you, and I've been talking about local issues, but the same is true for the states. The state of Michigan is different than the state of Texas, which is different than Rhode Island, which is different than New Hampshire, which is different than California, which is different from Nevada, which is different from Colorado, which is different from South Dakota. Statewide issues require, again, particularized policy prescriptions as opposed to the opposite of that, which is the one-size-fits-all Washington, D.C. knows best. Now, there are obviously circumstances and issues that require national, countrywide attention. And that's when the federal government can come in and can deal with those issues. For example, trade among the states and with foreign nations, foreign relations, military defense, control of the border, patents and copyrights, those enumerated powers, which I discussed earlier in this series. Those are all issues of national concern, and it makes sense to have the federal government step in and give a single policy, which could be tailored to the particular states and localities, but there's an overall arching policy which affects and hopefully addresses the issues that need to be addressed. And in fact, that's why we have a federal government, is because at one point we had the Articles of Confederation. They were not allowing sufficient vigor and legislative authority to address national issues through the national government. And so instead we developed a federal government which has specific enumerated powers that deal with nationwide issues. But if you expect that Washington, D.C. understands the circumstances that are facing the people in Colorado in a rural area versus the people in Los Angeles, that's really asking way too much. There is an economic theory of the Austrian School of Economics which recognizes that there is too much information out there for one person at the top to make a one-size-fits-all policy prescription that's going to be able to be effective across the range of the world. That's why we allow individuals to live their lives. That's in part one of the reasons. There's a lot of reasons, but in part, it's impossible for someone at the top to impose solutions. When they try to do that with economics in the Soviet Union, in Cuba and North Korea, you have mass starvation, you have terrible products, you have corruption, all kinds of things arise from that. And America, we've taken a different approach, and we believe that only issues of national scope should be addressed by the federal government. And so when the federal government moves in and tries to do something to affect the whole nation, you should really ask yourself, is this a national issue, or is this better addressed by the states and localities? Until next time, God bless you. God bless America. Don't forget about americasurvivalguide.com and my book. Don't forget about patriotweek.org. And please consider listening to the Patriot Lessons American History and Civics podcast. Subscribe, share, and I'll see you tomorrow.